I was doing a lot of drugs at that time. There was every single person in my life. Everyone's like going, you've got to stop this out. It's too much. You're doing too much. There will never be a sort of situation where Douglas dying will we ever be okay.
Has your addiction or your recovery made you a better leader?
I think makes you a better founder, not necessarily a better leader. And founding a business, 100%. Do you need that relentlessness and that sort of thing to be a general leader? I don't know if you do. I think actually there's probably leaders that would be better at showing actually where the balance is and actually where those things are. And actually, I think there's very few founders that have the off switch, and it's all about going forward. I can't believe I'm going to end with like a Taylor Swift reference. Someone was asking about what her success was, and it was like, I'm creative, I'm smart, and I work really hard. Yeah, and maybe like I've talked a lot about recovery and drugs and empathy and to get to wherever you are, you've got to put the graft in as well. You have to work hard.
Hi, I'm Deb.
Hi, I'm Del.
And this is the Sacred Art of Leadership podcast. We've got our guest waiting in the green room.
We do in the green room, yeah.
Should we let him in?
Let's let him in. Come on in. Here we go.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Barney.
It's Marathon Man.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Well, yes, I'm in one of the sound booths at the office, so I'm hoping it sounds good.
It sounds great.
I haven't figured out how to make any of the microphones or things work. So, but I thought I didn't think it was the best use of the engineering team for me to go, can you just work out how I can do a podcast in here rather than doing the work you're supposed to do?
So, Barny Wright started his career at Framestore, one of the most respected visual effect houses in the world. From there, he went on to set up his own production company before spending nearly a decade at Big Boy, building it into a multi-award-winning post facility. In 2019, he co-founded Number 8, an award-winning sound and vision studio in the heart of Soho, London. Under his leadership, Number 8 has grown year on year, expanded into film and TV by acquiring Jam VFX, and become one of the most prolific audio and post houses in the industry. Alongside all of this professional building, he's been doing another kind of work entirely. 7 years ago, Barney got sober. And the story of how he got there through loss, through the relentless pressure of the advertising world, through an honest reckoning with himself, is a story he rarely shares in the boardroom, but tells with bold honesty when he's given the space. He's a mentor, a self-described producer at heart, someone who believes leadership is fundamentally about how you treat people, and someone who has found through sobriety a clarity and presence that has quietly reshaped everything about the way he leads. We're so pleased to have you with us.
Thank you.
How does it feel hearing that back?
It's slightly weird in that it makes me feel quite old. I never feel quite old. And many times people keep reminding me I'm getting older. It's like, I still feel like a little bit like I'm just getting going, really.
Love that. We're starting to open our guest podcast with a question. I'm going to try it on you, if I may. When you heard the title, The Sacred Art of Leadership, what did it say to you?
Sacred Art of Leadership. Well, I'm not sure you know this. I was at Catholic school for my whole life. So sacred for me is very religious. And then I thought about it and sort of think actually the art word is very important to me, is that I feel leadership is an art, not science. And you can learn and you can evolve, but it changes the whole time and it's subjective and all of those things which art is. And you can never perfect it. You can never complete it. And I think with science, you probably could. And then sort of leadership is like, it's a sacred art. It's something that we're all striving for. I think in our own ways. I don't think that means everyone has to be the captain of the team, but I think everyone on their journey in life is a leader, and in some way, and is doing something. And we're striving to be it, and we're trying to learn, and we're starting to try and be better at it the whole time. And I think is that if it is an art and it's not a science, it's something that I want to keep evolving. Keep trying new things, keep trying to do things differently, learning where my viewpoint on it, my vantage point on it is, where my style is. No one can say one type of artist is better than another type of artist. Yeah. And I think it's the same with leadership. It's a different thing, and it will work for different people, and people will want different things from you. And I think that's one thing I've definitely learned, is that the type of leader I am isn't for everyone. And there's some people it doesn't work for.
So you said that it's something that everyone strives for. Was there a point that you kind of suddenly went, actually, that is the thing that I'm going to strive for?
For me personally,
Yeah.
I think I was the kid. I was always wanted to be the captain of the school team. Like, it was a football team at school, and I wanted to be the person. I was always a form captain. I wanted to organise the parties. I wanted to do those things. I like being the centre of attention. I do, which is weird because half my brain hates it. I find it very anxiety inducing. But I like to. I have an opinion on everything, and that generally means I'm going to be involved in the conversation. But it's what I've learned the last few years is actually when you're speaking to different people within the board or the investment group or whoever it is, different people need different things from you. So it's actually you need to communicate things or visualize things with different people because everyone's different. And I think that's where the skills come into, is actually how to make sure everyone's coming along on that journey with you and understands it. Because I'm a nerd and I look at spreadsheets, I look at numbers and I see numbers, but not everyone does that.
Barney, on that, it's made me think about our industry. And leading your team is I'd imagine would be very similar in lots of different industries, how you interact as a CEO with your senior leadership team and everyone else. But also I know that you will have been in suites with massive film directors, rock stars, owners of advertising agencies and ECDs and people who are massively successful in their own right. And yet you also need to to some degree, be a leader in that situation as well. So how do you tell Ed Sheeran what's going to happen?
You do have to learn to read the room. I think that's where the producer bit comes in, is actually you need to be able to do that and be able to extract the right information, because I think maybe less so now, but 15 years ago, there was very opinionated people and no one wanted to play nice because it was about getting your opinion across. I think people that, probably just because it's a better thing to do, but HR and things like that stop people being quite as aggressive as that in a room. But you do need to sort of coax people along on this journey and sort of and go, okay, well, that's like, how do we lead it on from this? And there's difference of opinion, and people have to make compromises on all those sorts of things.
So it's almost like politics. It's like understanding what the outcome
100%.
needs to be. Yeah, interesting.
100%. Yeah, and also it's actually probably as manipulative as that. It's actually being able to manipulate people into the outcome that is needed. But sort of maybe it's getting the outcome needed to get an advert on TV, or getting the outcome needed so that we're going to exit the European Union. Probably slightly different levels of what's at stake here, I think.
Yeah.
Where did you that skill of being able to communicate to everyone at the same level? Where did that come from? How did you hone that skill? How would someone do that?
Where did it come from? I'm the youngest sibling, so I was always speaking to older people. I come from a very political family. And to be honest, I try and stay out of it as much as possible. But I've grown up with debate and discussion around things. So I've sort of learned that. And how to mediate things between people. And I suppose when I was at school, I was always very academic. But equally, I sort of hang out with the cool kids as well. So it was like, I was like the smart kid in the cool group. But it's being able to sort of talk different languages to different people. And then once I was in the workplace, it was like, I'm just a nerd and I understand the technical side of it. And therefore I can understand that and have the communication with the people that know that side. But I also know that isn't ever how everyone works. So how do you make that into a way that's going to be useful for a non-technical producer or a client who doesn't really give a shit what's going on in the background? They just want to know where the result's going to be and when they're going to get what they need so that their account team or their clients gets off their back.
So when you look at leadership today, where do you think it's going wrong? Where do you think it's starting to drift?
Interestingly, I had this conversation at breakfast this morning. I think what we've got at the moment is everything's in a 3-year cycle. We've got private equity in a 3-year cycle, and you've got C-suite working in a 3-year cycle, but nobody's ever thinking beyond, or no one's planning beyond that because it's not for their own benefit. And therefore, it's like, well, if you go like, I'm only thinking relatively short-termist about the whole thing, how are you leading beyond that point? All you're doing is leading yourself to a certain point, and you're taking to your own decision, which isn't a community, isn't bringing anything. It's not sustainable for the long term. It's just very much a short-term thing to maximize your own return over a 3-year period. And I think private equity causing a lot of it in lots of great ways investment it's doing. And I'm not by any means having a pop at private equity because it makes lots of money for lots of people. But it's that 3-year life cycle is a challenging one, I think.
How much does intuition play a part in your leadership style? Because we've, having access to info and data and all that stuff, all that good stuff is obviously really important. But again, it's not necessarily the truth or the actual answer. And sometimes I'm curious about how much we allow ourselves as leaders to tune into our intuition and go in that direction, especially if it's counter to what the numbers are telling you.
Gut feeling. Yeah. Gut feeling, huge. It's huge. I don't know. So I don't know because it's you know the people or your experiences increase that gut feeling. But I think I would say 95% of the times when something I have felt in my stomach wasn't the right decision, hasn't, and we've done it anyway, hasn't worked. And maybe it's because therefore I wasn't massively invested in it, or I thought it was wrong and therefore I didn't put the same energy in it, or whatever it was. I think especially when it's things around people or things, and there's definitely been points over the last 7 years where I've made decisions where we've gone, okay, well, what would a big company do in this situation? And that wasn't me, that wasn't us, that was me thinking trying to think a different way. And I sort of try and lean back into it is that I think it was actually Lee Baby, ex-Electric Theatre, told me many years ago, is like, you got yourself to this position trusting yourself and being you. That's what the brand, so why change that? That's what's got the success it has. Don't try and be something you're not, and I try and lean into that as much as possible. It's like, I'm a different person in every way. I'm a different leader in every way. The company's different in every way, but that's evolution and that's change, which is not only inevitable, is important. I think is that you have to be able to change, and you have to be able to evolve and grow and adapt to whatever the current situation is. And I think anyone that isn't doing that is going to struggle.
So last one, Dib, I'll pass this to you in a second.
No, not at all. This is really interesting. You crack on, mate. This is great.
How closely correlated do you think, and sorry, these aren't pre-prepared questions, I'm just this is just making me interested in your experience. How closely correlated do you think your personal growth journey is to the growth journey of Number 8?
I think, to be honest, we knew we were going to do the business when I was still drinking and still using. Lots of people gave me lots of ultimatums about stopping doing drugs and stopping drinking. Jim never did, actually, interestingly. But what he did say, for this to work, you've got to be the best version of yourself. And I knew what he meant from that. And it wouldn't be what it is now if I wasn't sober. I think it's just, I've always worked hard and I've always grafted. It's the amount of time and the amount of emotional capacity that is needed to get it to this point, through some of those challenges, through COVID-19, 18 months into a journey, through all these things, hiring people, losing people, all these sort of things. I don't think I could have done it emotionally if I was still using it. I didn't have time, but didn't have the capacity to do that. So I think there's definitely a correlation between the amount of energy I could put into it and what the things about addiction is that you move the addiction into other places. And like, I definitely moved a lot of it into work for the first year, and that isn't necessarily healthy either, but it got us established. And whatever the industry throws at us or whatever the world throws at us, okay, it's like, I feel like I can do that because I've got through a personal journey as well. And actually, in reality of it, it's work, and these problems, they're big things and they're challenging things, and money is important and all these sort of things. We have lots of people you have to pay, but I know that actually I can get through these things, I can get through that. And it's very much a similar mentality is that I've always lived by this sort of mantra, which is it's one day at a time and it's one step at a time. And actually break any problem down into that. How do you manage that? How do you move things on? And I think that I've definitely applied the recovery concept and mantra to running the business and getting through challenges, and actually sort of just knowing that whatever is coming is like, okay, I'm going to be relatively calm about the situation and how we can get through this and how we can do it and how we can come together, because I sort of know that I can get through quite difficult things when I need to.
Yeah, I love what you said about the personal development in order for the professional aligned professional development. What was that personal development journey like? How did you know what that meant for you, and then what was that journey like? That inner
Well,
journey?
to be honest, I didn't really. I sort of like with the addictions, it's like I had to do it. Do you know what I mean? I had like for years before, which was lots of people saying me to, but I was never gonna do anything that anyone told me to do. It had to come from me, and I think that's probably the same from anyone that's recovering from any sort of addiction, whatever it may be, drugs or alcohol or sex or gambling, whatever it is. You got to want to do it. I had to discover what I needed. That's exactly what it is that I didn't know. And I'm still doing that now. I'm 7.5 years. And what I needed to do was take off the table one of the things, which was the drugs and alcohol. And when I did that, it wasn't like everything went, okay, well, your life's just perfect now. What it did is it took a big, substantial part of my life away, and a lot of guilt and a lot of things that are associated with something. And gone, okay, well, what's left? I mean, I've been in therapy for the last year or so. So you start peeling layers of onions. It's that's where tears come from, and it's caused some problems. And it's like I'm nearly, I'm in the middle of a divorce, and that's my ex-wife is still an amazing mother, amazing person, but it's like I realised that there was things that were missing from that relationship, and actually I probably wouldn't have known those things if I was still using, because I was filling the gaps there. But even with that, actually, I'm sort of discovering over the last 6 to 9 months, a year, is actually some of it, and I think is a neurodiversity thing. And actually, there's things that I'm missing there, and actually going, okay, well, that would explain a lot of these things and what the things that I've been searching for, why I haven't really understood things. So it's a constant journey that I'm going on, and I'm starting to put some things together, but I'm not there yet. And I'm still learning, and trying to see what those things are. I'm enjoying the process of learning, even though it's been last year was brutal. I'm not going to lie, it was brutally difficult last year. And there were some people in number 8 that got me through the last November, December last year. I'd gone. I couldn't even add up. It was like mentally I was overloaded. I couldn't do anything, and I got through. And I had some break, and then it was like actually it was fine. And I'm sort of feeling a lot more spring-like now. But it was challenging, and even probably the most challenging year since pre-sobriety, to be honest.
There's a lot of talk about, and by the way, honestly, it's inspiring hearing you speak so honestly and openly about everything. It really is. I think it invites others to kind of, any listener to go, that it's safe to do so. So thank you for that. And there's also there's something you said about people around you, allowing them in to support you, maybe even asking for help, recognizing that you're kind of, burning on empty.
Yeah, and towards the end of last year, definitely. There was also an interesting one. It's like, it's part of my self-discovery last year. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say this or not, but I went on an ayahuasca retreat in northern Wales. One of the things is this: I was having a visualization around fingers on my hands not working, 2 fingers on my hands not working on each hand, and sort of came up to a moment of clarity around it. And it's like, okay, but so I had these 2 fingers weren't working, but I could still do stuff. And it's like, okay, well, you can let go of some of control, but still have control. And I was like, literally walked out that way and came back on the Tuesday or wherever it was, sort of on cloud 9 of everything, feeling very amazing. Go, do you want to just give people more things to do? Because I can't at this scale do all of these things. Although, so literally pretty much rejigged the entire operations team. And so like, okay, well, I don't have to have control over all these things to still feel like I can control stuff. And that was quite a good realization that yes, you hire these amazing people, you have to trust them because they're all better than me at all the things they do. And having those people is really important.
So if you sorry, Dale, I do this all the time. I get so curious, right? If you had to design like a let's call it a leadership development program for your future leaders in your organization, what sort of things would you be kind of doing that would be very different to what we'd see in the mainstream?
It's actually something that should be a thing, to be honest, because it's and I think you touched on this before actually, which is that if you're good at something, your progression is to become someone that is a manager or something. Do you know what I mean? It's because it's like, how do we justify give you some more money? Well, you have to do something else. You have to have a better title or something. Yeah. But no, not everyone is the right fit for man management or whatever it is. They can be exceptional at what they do. Is that if I was designing a project, I think the empathetic approach to it and understanding what people are doing is very important. And I think within the sphere of what I have done, I think having an understanding of what you're doing is important, and having some technical understanding. And I've always believed that producers should have a technical understanding, and I've always been very, probably because I got told no one gives a shit what your opinion is, but it's that I think that the producer in the room does have an opinion, has a valid opinion on things, and creatively has an opinion. And I think whenever I'm having discussion with the sort of production team, they go, well, I'm not a creative person. It's like, you really are a creative person. You're solving client problems on a hourly basis in a way that isn't coming from a book. The creativity, some technical understanding and prowess and empathy would definitely be where I was going. Okay, that's what I would want from leaders.
I mean, Derek knows this. We talk about this kind of like the control aspect and the kind of the drive to hold tightly, and we always talk about holding lightly. You know, because it's like when you play golf, when you eventually get around to it. if you grip the club, you're not going to hit the ball very well. Yeah. It's about holding it just and allowing the club to do the work. All you're there to do is swing the club and let the club do the work.
It also reminds me of, or I'm making a comparison, I think, between, certainly from my experience, and it sounds like you're the same. You get to a point where you're so broken, you have to let go of some control, you know, because it just becomes overwhelming and too much to carry on doing it the same way that you've always done it. Firstly, it's a shame that we allow ourselves to get to that place where you have to go on a big life-changing retreat in order to see that. Or, you know, and I wonder whether the same, we talked about it in a couple of episodes ago about how on a mental health journey, you almost have to get to the bottom of despair before you can properly heal and come back out the other side. Is there a correlation between, in fact, and also I would quite like you to, if you don't mind, to talk through your journey into addiction. You know, this isn't an addiction recovery podcast. It's more about the learning of how you show up as a leader from that. But I think for anyone who hasn't heard your story, at what point in that curve did you notice and turn it around? And is that a trait? Is that a trait of leaders, is that we'll just keep being resilient to the point of no other option, and then we have to pivot and change and learn and grow and break?
Well, firstly, the question around it, I think there's certain people and certain ways of breaking. It's about trying to fix things, and I definitely if this needs to get done, I will need to do it. There's definitely been times where I've gone, I'll just get up 20 minutes earlier and I'll get it done. But there's only a certain amount of time in a day, and you can't keep doing that before it just becomes the night before. So it's actually, you can't do that. You can't graft your way out of every situation. A lot of things, some hard work will get you quite a long way, but I don't think it's necessarily the solution long term. But my personal journey, I grew up in Essex, and I was the younger sibling. The middle brother, Felix, had a record out in the early 90s, and I was doing very well. And at the same time, my sister was modelling. So they were both up in London. So I sort of got sucked in, or not sucked in, that sounds like it. I wanted to be part of that world. And so I was out, lots of clubs, lots of drugs from a very early age while being at school. So I was sort of 13, 14 and doing quite a lot of pills, a lot of cocaine, lots of clubs and sort of fabric and turnmills in the end, and some amazing clubs doing some great parties. And it was great fun. It was lots of great fun. My life was good. I had lots of great stories. I met lots of great people, got exposed to lots of cultures and viewpoints that you didn't get in suburban Essex really very often. So that was amazing. Academically I was fine. I was good at school. I still did well in all exams and that sort of thing. And then moved to London, started working at Frame Store and started doing those sort of things. And this whole time partying a lot, working very hard, play hard, work hard, advertising dream. You can go out a lot with people that do it, but you have to work hard. And I sort of had that mentality for a long time. Yeah, I probably did too much of I did do too much of everything at that time, but there was no real responsibilities at that point. I was working for someone. I didn't have children. So when it started to really become an issue was probably around when my eldest daughter, Edie, was born, just before that. So she's 11 now. So it's 11 years ago. So that would have been 3.5, 4 years before I stopped. The year preceding my sobriety, which was 2018, was a really challenging year. It was my eldest brother Henry. He had a son called Douglas, and Douglas was 3.5 and got diagnosed with neuroblastoma, which is a type of childhood cancer. And seeing a young boy go through lots of treatment and lots of thing, and then ultimately dying was devastating for us all. And there was and I've said this line before, but it's true. Is I've been very blessed in my life. Is that even in the challenging times, everything's been okay in the end, and and sort of the divorce and things, that it will be okay. There will never be a situation where Douglas dying will we ever be okay in my mind. It would never be something that I will recover from. It will never be something that I will think is okay or sort of justifiable. And that was difficult. I was doing a lot of drugs at that time. Sort of maybe the 3 years before that, there was every single person in my life. So business partners, friends, Ruth, everyone's like going, you've got to stop this out. It's too much. You're doing too much. And it wasn't like I was out at clubs or I wasn't out at parties. I was working the whole time, and creatively and commercially and career-wise, I was doing really well. Like Big Boy was thriving. I was doing well. We knew we were about to start a business. And from outside, it maybe looked like, okay, everything's great, but I was working late and I was drinking and I was doing drugs at work. I've learned since then, actually, some of that is actually a neurodiversity thing, which is actually, I was masking and using these things to be able to deal with situations that I find difficult. So that sort of descent into that point, it got ramped, and it was a daily occurrence. I was doing probably 6 days out of 7. I was doing drugs. It was nearly fucking up every relationship I had, but equally, I know very much and very conscious of the time you get with your children is finite, and work and every party and everything like that will always be there.
Yeah.
They will only be a certain age for a certain time. And every second that I can get with them is a second that I will cherish. And every cuddle that I get with them is I hold on to them, because I don't know if it will be the last time that they'll want to, especially with the older one. And actually, we sort of had a bit of a light bulb moment a couple of weeks ago, which is, okay, well, Edie was 3 years old. I'd have just been born. So I had someone that really needed me and wanted me. And that filled a bit of the gap that needed me. And I was like, okay, well, that was what you're filling. It's like, I hadn't really put those two together. It's actually what I've been chasing is something that's filled what I was missing. And she did that. And the kids did that.
Honestly, it's an amazing story. If you could choose a point in time in your history that I could take you back to, that you could then have a short conversation with yourself at that age, what would you go back to, and which age would it be, and what would you say?
It's a very good question. It's a very good question. I don't know what. I don't look back that often. I try to learn from what I have done and what I've learned, but look forward as much as possible. So I don't regret anything. Whatever's happened, it's happened, and it's happened. It's made me the person I am. I hope to God that I haven't hurt too many people on that journey. And if I have, that's what I would want to change. But I wouldn't change anything really. Should I have stopped doing things earlier? Maybe. I'm just not sure I was ready to do that at that point. I'm not sure I was there. Should I go back? Because I could go back 15 years and go, well, I could maybe look into, is it a neurodiversity thing? But you go back 15 years and say neurodiversity to somebody, they're going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's not a thing.
What's the greatest lesson then that you've learned throughout that kind of impacts the way that you lead people?
Is that everybody is always going through a personal battle at all times. And you may know about it or you may not know about it, but you should be empathetic to that situation. And that you can lead and you can be commercially successful and you can do all these things, but you can do that while also considering other people's lives and what's going on and taking that into account. And if someone's having a bad day or behaving a certain way, is there more to it than that? Sometimes it's people are just shit. Or don't care, but you need to sort of be aware of the fact that there might be things going on, because I hope to God there aren't that many people that don't care, but people also, and actually care is interesting, because actually not everyone places the same priority on the things that you do as you do. And that's fine, and that's actually good. And I know there's no way that I would expect anyone that works for us, works with me, works with us, to have the same level of emotional investment in it as the people that founded it. It's a difficult thing to do. There are some people that I actually think do, which is great.
And do you think it's important for you to understand what they do care about?
I try to talk to people. I probably talk too much. I try to talk to people as much as I can and listen to people. And Do you know the bits of the day that I love the most is like when I'm coming into got 2 buildings in Soho, and I actually love that sort of 5 minutes just chatting to the runners about what they've been up to, what they're doing, because they've just got this, like, they're at that point of the career where it's all really super exciting. And actually, they're really grateful for the opportunities that they've got, and they're young people. They do interesting things. It's like you start speaking to people that are like 50 or whatever, and it's like, what do you do this? Went and watched the kids football and went to a kids party. It's like actually the runners coming through have got quite fun stuff that they're doing, and also I think you've touched on these. That I am very vocal about the challenges that I've had, but part of it is because it's for my own growth and my own benefit. So I'm not being totally selfless with this and saying, but there is a big part of it, which is I want to normalize it. It's that people to talk about things, because the world is really hard, like really hard. And I think it's harder than it was. And I think it's more intense, and I think it's faster. And I think you can be enjoying it, and you can be having commercial success if it's a business, or you could be happy in a relationship. But it doesn't mean it's not hard. And actually admitting that things are hard, why is that a problem? Why is that a thing you can't do? You're acknowledging that it's work and it's difficult and you've got challenges to get through, and being able to talk to people about it and going, actually, if I am finding something challenging at work or at home, or I've got these things going on, I want to be able to speak to someone about it and not be seen in a negative way. And not seen as a way that's on me being weak because I'm weak because I'm facing a challenge. It's like, for me, that's like the whole concept of that is the wrong way around. It's like, you're facing a challenge isn't a weakness, it's a strength, and you're taking it on and you're dealing with these things. And then we can help, or we can support, or we can offer advice. Sometimes we can do nothing about it. It's out of our control. Like Douglas, no one could have done anything about that. I was numbing the whole thing, and I didn't process it. I didn't deal with it, and it screwed me over. Do you know what I mean? And I was at the lowest I've ever been. But I think it's having now the ability to be able to talk to people. It's like, actually, I think it's good to be able to say those things and show that vulnerability and is important and is real.
Hey, what you're role modeling is absolutely right. You're normalizing a lot of this stuff, which we're kind of taught or trained somehow to numb it out, or it's not what we should show.
Especially in a leadership role. I think we are conditioned to believe we have to show up like we've got everything together, and we have to be confident and impressive, and that's the only way we get people to follow us. And I just wonder if that's really true anymore.
Probably for a longer time of my life, I had this sort of illusion that there was this upper echelon of people that had everything sorted out and they were super intelligent and knew everything. Actually, as you keep going up, you realise that nobody does. And everybody's winging it to a certain extent, and everyone is just making up. And there isn't, like, it sort of makes sense.
But this is what I think is impressive about you, Barney, is that you have seen through that. And like, I can also relate to in our industry, right? The best visual effects artists will show their team, their clients, like behind the scenes, how it all works, because they're not trying to hide anything. They know they are good at what they do and can be honest and open about it. Some other less experienced artists will kind of just keep their workings secret and pretend they're all doing it. And then once the clients have left the room, they'll pull an all-nighter trying to work out how to do it. I mean, I've been there. I think it's the same in leadership. It's like, if you're actually a really good, authentic leader and you're confident enough in yourself as a person, and you know you've got good intentions and you're smart enough, then you can, like you clearly demonstrate, and you can be more authentic, more open, more honest, because you're not hiding anything. And I think that's what, for me, that's great leadership.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's okay to say I don't know. And it's like, that isn't a don't know, I'm just going to stop thinking about it. It's I don't know, but we will figure this out. And we will lean into the experience, and we will learn from this, and we will figure it out, and we'll get there.
There's an expression, isn't there, that you have to put your own oxygen mask on before helping those around you. And that's very true, I think, in terms of your personal growth in a leadership role. But how do you balance that, your needs for personal development and growth and change, and the team's need for you to be there every day, kind of like showing them the path and, setting the vision and the strategy and holding them accountable?
Sometimes it's challenging, yeah. And there's definitely be times where I would look and go, actually, I have I have been too conscious of my own growth and put too much pressure on people. But I think it's you can use some of the same analysis techniques actually when you're looking at yourself. And I think it's very important to be constantly holding a mirror up to yourself and looking at what you can do better. And I think that's the case of being a leader as well. This is quite interesting actually to me, is that I was doing a whole sort of staff presentation maybe a month or a half ago, and I was sort of going through it, and I was sort of trying, in my mind, it was like, okay, we're making these strategic changes, and we made some redundancies, and we cut some areas that weren't commercially working at the moment. And I sort of like in my mind, I thought, guys, I was just going to show all these numbers. And so actually, these things don't mean anything to most people. And actually, because I spend my entire time in a boardroom looking at P&L or chatting to a CMO or chatting to some investors or whatever it is, these things are all in my head. I actually go, okay, if I'm explaining to the company why we're doing things, I need to actually go back a couple of stages. And I got rid of all the numbers, and I actually said, okay, well, what we're doing is this, and this is the reason why we're doing it, is that a certain amount of work that we do every year came from this partners. What those companies are doing is doing this, which means this work is going to do this. And people just like go, and they're like, okay, I get it now. You're not just making this stuff up. You're not just willy-nilly getting a period of people or hiring people, changing things. It's because the strategy for what number 8 needs to do is directly in relation to what the clients are going to need.
So here's another one for you. The question I've written down as you were chatting is, has your addiction or your recovery made you a better leader?
I think makes you a better founder, potentially, not necessarily a better leader. I think you could probably be a leader. I think to be able to be a founder and create something that addictive personality and that determination and that drive just to keep going is huge. And that sort of, especially that sort of startup phase when you're doing everything and you've got to do it, that definitely helps. So founding a business, 100%. Do you need that relentlessness and that sort of thing to be a general lead? I don't know if you do. I'm not sure. I think it's I think you can show different types of leadership, and I think actually there's probably leaders that can work and which would be better at showing actually where the balance is and actually where those things are. And actually, I think there's very few founders that have the off switch, and it's all about going forward. But actually, leaders, probably different leaders, and then can do that. And I think you can definitely be a leader and not be a founder, and do that. And I think there's some amazing people that can run teams or run businesses, but didn't want to do that phase.
But there's that inflection point, isn't it? Where it changes, where your role changes and the
Completely.
culture changes and the organization. Yep. And now you're like, one point you are the person, and then all of a sudden you're no longer the person.
Yeah, completely. It's like there was the first 2 years. I could identify every single job that was in the building, and I would tell you which of my relationships they had come from. Do you know what I mean? And now it's like I don't even know some of the clients in the building anymore. I definitely miss some of the production side of it sometimes. There's definitely bits of producing I don't miss, but there is, and this came out of therapy as well, is that there is, within producing, there's completion. You start something and you work on it and then you finish it.
And someone says thank you.
Exactly. Running a business, there is no finishing point, and no one ever says thank you for anything ever.
But you've been really open and talked a lot about therapy and your therapist, and obviously it's relatable to your journey that you've been on. How important do you think that, somebody like myself who hasn't had that journey, there's people out there who've just been through the normal kind of like system of education and work, etc., and don't recognize that they might benefit from therapy?
What should everyone do it? I think everyone needs to have a mechanism to be able to get things out. I think I have learned personally that actually keeping everything down for such a long time isn't good for you in any way. Or there's an interesting thing I read about sort of journaling the other day, and actually this morning I was looking back at some of them for last year, and it's like, that was quite a dark point at some points. But then I read an article that's going to make me sound like really highbrow, and it was I probably saw it on like Lad Bible or LinkedIn or like Instagram or something. It wasn't like, I'm not that highbrow. It was about, actually there was a study that actually vocalizing your journaling is actually incredibly better, because you're actually saying it, and just recording a voice note and sending it to yourself, because when you're writing something down, your bias is to sort of tailor it to how you want it to be, more than if you're just saying it, you're more likely to actually say what you're feeling. Whereas actually, if you start writing something, you're sort of thinking, what's my tone? How am I doing this? Does it sound cool? It's not just a stream of consciousness.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because the minute you talk, you're vocalizing it's coming out, but your brain is processing what's going back in.
Mm.
And you're hearing yourself rather than being the inner voice. You're actually vocalizing, you're hearing it from the outer voice. And all of a sudden, the interpretation of that, when you say it out loud, I've worked with loads of clients where they say, oh, now that I've said that out loud, that sounds a bit weird, or that sounds ridiculous, or that it doesn't make sense anymore. But when it was in here and just whirring its way around my brain, it was just like, it was happily living there the minute it came out.
Barney, I've got one little question that I'd like to just ask. You talked about guilt earlier, and you're our second guest in a row to talk about guilt. Our previous guest was talking about women and how female leaders, and how they struggle with the guilt of the opportunity cost of when you do something, you're therefore not doing something else. You talked a few times about guilt. Can you help me understand what guilt means to you and what areas of your life?
That's Catholic school for you. That's where this comes from. Sure. Right. I don't think I actually feel guilty for many things. There's definitely a couple of things in my life that I shouldn't have done. There's quite a lot of things in my life I shouldn't have done. But there's a couple of things that I really shouldn't have done. But I don't know if I feel guilty about them. I think there's inherent feeling guilty about doing anything, having any level of success or any level of emotion about anything, which comes, I think, probably from being at Catholic school for so long. And I think it's like, I never feel guilty about what I've achieved, or guilty. I don't even feel guilty about what I've done, because I sort of said earlier, it's made me the person I am. And every experience, good and bad, has got me to where I am now. And actually that is what I am. And especially last year was actually going, do you know what? That is me. I don't have to mask it. I don't have to be guilty about it. I don't have to feel that I have to dial it down. I don't have to fit into different situations. It's just like, that's just me. And actually being comfortable about your own authenticity and who you are, because you don't know what's around the corner. So, and life is very short.
Wow. That's really good. Right. So we got 5 quick fire questions that Derek's going to fire at you.
So this is just straight. Oh God, this uncensored straight out of my head. Okay.
Yeah. No, don't overthink it. And it doesn't, it doesn't matter. It's only us who's having a chat. You're on a long run on the Norfolk coast. What's the thing your mind keeps coming back to?
To be honest, it's actually work. It's ideas. Like Jim hates it. Like, because I will run early in the morning and I'll just be messaging him things at like 5:30 in the morning with an idea, and it's like 90% of them are shit. But every now and again, one of them's good. And it's also the same. It's the same thing I used to do, but I used to do it at 2 a.m. and I was at a Groucho Club, and it's probably the same level of crap ideas, but at least this different time in the morning. But
the best experience of leadership you've ever witnessed?
Experienced, I think it's probably something like this I've seen, like with like my sister bringing up kids or something. Witnessed, there was like, what's the lady that was the Prime Minister of New Zealand?
Jacinda Ardern.
Yeah.
When there was a shooting, and the way that she dealt with that shooting and the way that she did that was amazing. I think she's done lots of great things, but I think that was particularly, that was one I remember going. So I remember time going, I wish she was our Prime Minister.
I think a lot of us did that.
She's on our dream list for interviewees.
Oh, really?
She's on our wish list if she ever listens to us.
Yeah. What's the thing you used to think made you a good leader that you now think was just a mask?
Potentially something can be is actually, do you have to be the person that works the hardest? And even though that is I have that in me, and that's what I do. I don't think it's the only thing that makes you a good leader. I think there's so many different ways of being a leader that you don't have to be that person. I think as long as you show that you care and you're doing things, you don't have to be that person.
I think that's cool. And also I'd share my experience of that was when I was very early in not even before I was even a leader, I was still an artist. And I remember the leader that we'd hired to run the business, because we didn't know how to run a business, was saying to me about how important it is to find time to look out the window, like physically stand by the window to look out of it, just to clear your thoughts, clear your brain. And I just thought it was just being lazy. Like, come on, this stuff needs to be done. Like, we've got there's a million things that always need to be done. How can you just be standing there looking out the window? And now I realize, like, I was so stupid. Like, that's where the vision and the strategy and the clarity and all of that stuff comes from.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You get that clarity and do things. This place is a little bit like running, isn't it? It's like you get having that space to be able to think and take yourself away from the problem gives you perspective and gives you some clarity to breathe and be able to react to it. And therefore you can react to things in a different way, I think.
Slowing down to speed up.
Love it. Sobriety gave you clarity. What's the first thing you saw clearly that you couldn't see before?
That it wasn't all my fault.
Very cool. Yeah, good one. Good one. If the next generation of leaders in your industry takes one thing from your experiences, just one, what would you want that to be?
That you can be strong but empathetic.
Awesome.
Really awesome. And then we've got one final closing question that we like to finish on, and I'm not sure exactly how. Well, let's go, because I think you've said a lot, and you're very open, right?
I do talk a lot.
No, but you're very. I love. You know what? You're such an honest, authentic human. You're such a good bloke. It's honestly, it's been an inspiration sitting here listening to you. So thank you for that. But let's go with it and see what you come up with, right? So, what have you never spoken about that shaped the leader that you became?
I haven't spoken about enough yet is actually the things that I'm discovering about myself. And I think I probably will over the next year, 6 months, whatever it is, the talk about as my neurodiversity journey progresses. And I may even, I'm sort of working on this concept around a podcast actually, which I may or may not do myself, but around the intersection of, addiction and relationships with the neurodiversity lens on that, and actually where those things interact and how I think there's an interesting story to be able to do that. What else has shaped my leader? I sort of talked about the vulnerability side of it. It's like, but also there is that thing. It's like, you'd have to work really fucking hard. You have to work really hard to make things happen. And I can't believe I'm going to end with like a Taylor Swift reference, but this is very in my mind. I saw some quote on it, which she was saying, which was someone was asking about what her success was. And it was like, it's just like, well, I'm creative, I'm smart, and I work really fucking hard. It's like, okay, that's enough. Do you know what I mean? That's a pretty good start, actually. And maybe like I've talked a lot about recovery and drugs and empathy, and actually to get to wherever you are, you've got to put the graft in as well. You have to work hard. So maybe I should mention that at some point.
That's a great place to close the conversation. Amazing.
Barny, it's been awesome. I really
I've loved it. Really loved it. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for being the leader and the human that you are. The world needs more people like you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thanks, Barny.